How we doing, everyone? Welcome to episode 4. This is All Blocks Covered, a podcast that talks about all the different facets of the NBA. I'm your host, Marcus. I got Chili right next to me. Say what's up, Chili.
What's brackin'?
On this episode, we're going to be talking about both conferences, but first, Jrue Holiday. He got a new extension. What does that mean for the Bucks? What does that mean for them contending for the East, as well as the other East contenders? And the middle of the East is pretty wild still. What does that sort of mean? Then we go to the Western Conference. The Denver Nuggets, they're 8-0 with Aaron Gordon. They're really hot right now. Can they contend for the West, as well as the other contenders as well? And who's in trouble? That 8 through 11, that's getting a little scary right there. So that's what we got in our episode. But before we get to that, we actually just ordered some pizza and
a little pop on the way.
A little pops. And so it kind of sparked a discussion. So Chili and I, again, a little bit about us. We absolutely love pizza. That's our favorite food. And so it obviously sparked a discussion of just like, what is the best place to get pizza? What kind of pizza? Toppings? And so Chili's got a top 5, and we're going to go through it. We're going to go 5 through 1. And so he's going to explain why he put where he put, and then I'm going to give my sort of review, and then we're just going to go into wherever it leads, and I'm sure it will definitely go off the rails at some point. So for you, Chili, let's just get right into it. What is your number 5? And hang on. Before you go, this is brand chain pizzas. These are not like the local, like really good ones. These are brand chain, like sports pizza, hangout pizza.
But I guess I didn't ask you, can it just be a restaurant too that provides other types of foods?
Okay, that's fair. That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
So for my number 5, I'm going to start with Rock and Brews. Big shout out to Rock and Brews. Love the pizza there. They got real nice specialty pizzas. You guys should check it out.
Is Rock and Brews just this area or just Florida?
They got like about 4 restaurants in the Central Florida area, and then they have some in Cali, Hawaii. Okay. They're kind of around.
So it's a chain, yeah.
For number 4, I'll go with Flippers. Ooh. I've seen this one around Kissimmee, Orlando area. I'm not sure there's somewhere else outside of Florida.
They're pretty popular around this area. I'm not sure they could be, but they're definitely pretty popular in this area. So, yeah. Okay.
So I like them. They're not too bad. For number 3, this is where things get serious.
I'm nervous.
A go-to will be Domino's.
Dommies. Yes, Dommies. Okay.
Good prices. Especially college days. I just go to Domino's all the time, For number 2, This is one of my OGs. This is why I follow the Orlando Magic. This is why I pay attention to the record, if they win or not. Because if the Orlando Magic win, I'm getting Papa John's. 50% off. I get the meat lovers. I'm all about the meats. I love it. A little marinara, extra garlic, a little dip. I like that stuff. And for my number 1,
okay,
I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but it's called Your Pie. And I've actually,
I've never heard this, actually.
Yeah, I've had it in Iowa for the first time, and I thought it was only, like, in the Midwest area. But I actually saw it in Orlando not too long ago. So I'm gonna have to take you there sometime. But it's kind of like going to Subway. You just stand in line, and you just say whatever you want on it. Barbecue sauce, Alfredo, marinara.
So it's kind of like Blaze, kind of like Blaze Pizza.
Okay, and I haven't been to Blaze.
Same.
Because and I wonder if Blaze is like a walk up and you order what you want, or is it? Because I've been to some that you sit down and you order like a customized pizza, but I don't like those because like Your Pie or maybe Blaze is like this too. When you order while you like Subway style, you can get so much on it.
True.
Because they don't know what else you're gonna get. It might just be chicken. They don't know you might add bacon and sausage. So it's kind of how I finesse.
So let's break down this top 5.
Uh-oh.
So let's start with 5. I haven't had the Rock and Brews pizza. So explain to me what kind of pizza this is. Is it deep dish? Is it regular? Is it thin? What is it?
No, it's thin.
Okay.
And I give me a little margarita pizza.
Oh, okay.
They got a little Rock and Brew,
Margarita pizza is more, for me personally, it's like, hey, we're eating at the restaurant. It's not, I'm ordering a delivery and I'm going to go pick it up and I'm watching the game. Like, that is like fine dining for me. Like, that's like, hey, we're at the restaurant, we're hanging out. Like, it's a nice establishment sort of deal. Like, that's how I feel about margarita pizza.
And to be honest, bro, I gave him a shout out because, to be honest, my top 3 is my solid pizza place. 4 and 5 was kind of like honorable mentions,
Are you in the boat where pizza is pizza, but still your particular kind of, like, you'll eat pizza, whatever it is, but like,
to be honest, I'm willing to try any pizza besides Pizza Hut. I am not going to Pizza Hut. It could be a free pizza, and I might just give it away. Give it to somebody less fortunate.
We should probably just get right into that and say that we're both not necessarily Pizza Hut. I actually used to like Pizza Hut growing up, but I just realized it's just too greasy.
It plays tricks with my stomach.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's almost like too much. It's like an in-between between wanting to be a sports pizza and wanting to be a deep dish. Like, I just can't figure it out. Yeah. And it's just way too much. So Pizza Hut is not on our list.
And before we go to your favorite ones, are you a fan of dip dish pizza?
Okay, so here's the deal with deep dish. It's not pizza. And I guess that's the hot take.
What is it, lasagna?
It really is lasagna. It's almost like it's just too much sauce. And the fact that you have to use a fork and a knife, like, it's not. There needs to be.
You can never have too much sauce, though.
That is true, but I don't want it to be like a bowl of soup with cheese. But hang on, let's get back to you. And so, what was number 4? Flippers?
Flippers.
Okay, so I recently had Flippers. I think it's okay. Like, it's just, that's where it's like pizza is just pizza. Where it's just like, okay, it's good, it's decent, it's not terrible, but like, I'm not taking initiative to go there. That's the thing. Like, there's other obviously choices, but like, it's pretty good. It's not too bad. Now, Dommies. Here we go. Dommies is my number 1.
Whoa.
Well, I should probably preface the fact that I technically do not have a number 1, which doesn't even make any sort of sense why we're even having this discussion. I just don't even have like a number 1. But Dommies is my go-to. Like, that is my, since college days, the one that probably had the most deals, the one that's closest to me pretty much always wherever I lived. And I just want to say this about Domino's is that I respect the hell out of them because they're the one like food establishment that really sucked and they owned up to it and they changed their sauce. And I was like, you know what? Mad respect, So like, I'm sticking with Dommies. Sometimes it tastes like cardboard, depending like where you go. But just like when it's on, it's on. So like, I am full Dommies, and then Pops. I mean,
goated.
For me, Pops is, I only get one thing from Pops, and that's the like barbecue meats pizza, which we're getting meats today.
Well, I'm glad you didn't say cheese pizza.
Okay, so hang on, we'll get into that first of all, but let's finish this list. And so, yes, the only time I actually get Pops is if the Magic win, in which it's unfortunate right now that they're somewhat tanking or they're just terrible, or they have been terrible, except for the last couple of years. But like, it's literally the only time I get Pops is when the Magic win because of that 50% off. But it's spot on. Like, every single time it's spot on, and I just have no sort of questions with it. But I need to try out this number 1 place,
which eventually will become your number 1. But it's not like I go to often, like Papa John's. I'm watching at home a game at home. I'm ordering Papa John's. I'm getting beer. But this other place is more like date night with the lady,
Okay.
or with with a friend.
So it's okay. So it's like the Subway style. I'm just thinking about Blaze as well, but just like it's the Subway style, and you can sit down and eat.
Yes.
Got it.
And they have beer too. And
Oh, so it's a fine establishment.
They have dessert. Yeah, they have craft beer. The ones I've
Okay.
been, they have like 3 beers on tap.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I gotta check this out.
Yeah, it's
For
like,
a pizza
low key,
person,
like a Burger Fi.
Oh, okay.
Because Burger Fi, they have beer too. It's like for those of you
True.
that do not know, it's a burger establishment.
I've got to try this out because if that's your number one, I am a pizza guy. Pizza's pizza, but I am a pizza
I be
guy.
doing half Alfredo, half barbecue.
Oh,
I get creative. I get on my dolly.
Okay, so when it comes to like the Subway style, is it just like you just pay extra for like each individual topping, or just like you just put whatever?
Yeah, you just keep him coming.
Oh, okay. So gotta try that out. Now we need to get into the discussion.
Speaking of toppings.
Yeah, speaking of toppings, this might get controversial right here. Okay.
Yes.
So I am a classic gold medal cheese pizza guy. Like that is the gold medal sort of slice, the gold medal pizza right there. Just keep it basic because you never really know what sort of situation if you're in, especially if you're not ordering, just stick with cheese. You're never going to go wrong with that. If you want to throw in I think pepperoni is a little bit boring, but just like, again, it's basic or whatever. We're not doing mystery pizza. Okay. We're just not doing mystery pizza. And I guess if I should define that, it's just like the whatever toppings, just like hey, I'll just throw it on there. The veggie pizzas, the whatever pizzas. We talked about the meats. It's protein, kind of deal. But just like, where are you at with toppings?
I don't discriminate toppings. I want the mushrooms. I want the onions.
Oh,
I want
God.
the olives. I want the pineapples.
Oh, my God.
Bacon.
Stop the podcast right now.
I want the peach.
No way.
I want it all.
No way.
Yes, sir.
Pineapples on pizza?
Pineapples, peach. You name it.
No. I can't deal with anyone that has pineapples on pizza. Like that should just be illegal. That's like how I feel about pickles on chicken sandwiches. Like just like not.
You don't like pickles on your chicken sandwich?
No, bro.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you like cheese pizza. Come on.
I'm
you got the palate of a 5-year-old kid.
Yeah, where's my high C fruit punch, right? But no pineapples on pizza. No mystery pizza. It's literally cheese, pep, and I guess the meats or barbecue chicken pizza. You can't go wrong with a barbecue chicken pizza, especially if you just like barbecue in general. So where are you at with, I guess we'll do the deep dish, sports pizza, restaurant style, or like a New York thin crust? Where are you? What's your like number one, I should say?
I love them all, bro.
Of course.
Just as long as I get the toppings that I want, I like it. I just don't like, I like the thin crust if I have to pick. I'll take the thin crust.
True.
Yeah.
I like a little like flap, I guess.
Yeah.
Nothing greasy because I know a lot of thin crust.
No
like
Little Caesars mode.
Oh
here.
God! Actually, you know what? We should probably get into that because I used to be big into Caesars.
Probably when you didn't have any money back then.
Exactly, the $5 hot and ready's, And I remember the first time when I did it, I actually called and like I made an order for it, and they're just like, "No, you just go pick it up. Like it's already ready for you." But I used to be heavy on the Little Caesars, and then my last couple years in college, did the Domino's thing. I realized like there was a deal and there was one close by my place, and I realized Little Caesars was also cardboard, but Domino's is better cardboard.
There's levels to this cardboard game.
But I'm thin crust, but like standard, hangout pizza or whatever. I actually realized that I don't necessarily get pizza at like sit down establishments. I'd rather just like get something else or whatever because I already know I'm going to eat pizza like 24/7.
True.
But we've already eliminated deep dish, like, so that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Where are you at with like frozen pizza?
I'll get me a DiGiorno. Crystal, she likes to get Jacks just because they're cheaper or whatever. But yeah, I like the DiGiorno. I'll get a deluxe.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah.
I feel like frozen pizza is somewhat underrated.
Yeah.
But the problem with frozen pizza, sometimes it's the same price as just like the one you can just get at like Pops. or like Dami. So I'm just like, why don't I just get one where I don't have to put in any sort of work? So let's just do that. I actually started getting into making my own pizza with like flatbread or cauliflower bread, which cauliflower is now into like every sort of deal. It's whatever. So getting into that. So a little healthier side, I guess. Still not putting on a crap ton of like toppings or whatever, but just like trying to be creative in my own self. I can't cook, so there's that. But do you have anything else? Actually, you know what? What are your thoughts on 7-Eleven pizza?
Trash. I mean, I've had it because I've been desperate before.
CC's Pizza?
Trash.
Super
One
trash.
time I had 21 slices though because I was young.
True.
I was 18 years old.
Yeah, never gaining any weight. Yeah.
Yeah, I broke a record there probably.
Chuck E. Cheese Pizza.
Never been.
I can't even remember what that even tastes like.
Yeah.
It's too zoned into the arcade games. Sombrero, the mall pizza.
I've had it for some reason. I've had that at the mall and in New York too. I've had it, but just standard whatever.
Yeah. But before we get into our next segment, something that we are going to try out every single episode from now on is kind of tapping into our followers and seeing what they have to say about their favorite teams. And so we decided to set up a voicemail where followers can call in and share their opinions. And we're calling that What's on Your Mind, or hashtag What's on Your Mind. And so with that, here is our first voicemail.
What up, Chili Chills? And the All Blacks Covered podcast, the best podcast in the world. So I'm calling, man, because I got to talk about my Bulls, man. Been a Bulls fan since I was born. 1992. Right? Chicago Bulls right now, I think we're on the process of going back to the playoffs. Because for the past, since like 2016, it's been terrible being a Bulls fan. We used to championships. We hang banners. Okay? We had the D Rose years. I don't want to bring up D Rose because I don't want to cry. All right? If D Rose would have stayed healthy, we would have won a ring. All right, cool. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the present. In the present time, made some big moves. We got Vucevic. I'm really excited for Vucci Mane because I really think he can be a huge improvement from how bad Wendell was. Wendell was terrible. Otto Porter was terrible. I'm so happy we traded both of them. So I think Vucci Mane, Markkinen, Zach LaVine, we got my man Kobe White out of UNC. I think he would be a great addition off the bench because it looks like he's going to be that six-man role. But I think we got a good core. I think we can make some noise in the playoffs. I don't think we will get swept, whoever we play against. The future is looking a little bright. It's looking a lot brighter than it has in the past few years. So I'm hoping for a playoff appearance. I'm hoping we make some noise in the playoffs. Hoping we get some good pieces in free agency. Maybe be able to get somebody in the draft that could really help us immediately, not a couple years down the road. Because we're trying to win now. We're trying to get back to the top now. Chicago's a sports town. Bears, they're terrible. Cubs, average. White Sox, we need the Bulls to be great. We need Chicago Bulls to be great. That's all I got to say, man. You know who it is. It's your boy T-Style. See you, bro. Peace.
Alrighty, so we're going to use this episode to really just check in on both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. And so first we're going to start with the East. And we're going to start with what happened earlier in the week with Jrue Holiday. He agreed to a max 4-year, $160 million contract extension.
Ching, ching.
Got that bag. And so in the offseason, he had a player option of $26.7 million. And so he really had to decide if he was going to stay with the Bucks or go to a different team. But obviously with this extension and with his age, he's pretty much saying, I'm a Buck for life. And so let's kind of talk about like before how this all kind of happened. And so in the off season, he actually got traded to Milwaukee for Eric Bledsoe and George Hill and a first round pick, which ended up being RJ Hampton, which is pretty interesting. And so a lot of questions with Milwaukee was, what do they do now? They were the top seed the last 2 years and sort of flamed out in the playoffs. Giannis needs help. You know, he has Chris Middleton and he had a bunch of kind of shooters around him, but in the NBA, you just need more than 2 stars. So you get Jrue Holiday, a really good shooter, a really good defender. A lot of people are kind of up in the air with him. I really like him as a player in terms of what he sort of brings, but he sort of comes in off the hands of Giannis agreeing to an extension as well. So now the Bucks are now with Giannis, a big contract with Chris Middleton, and now with Jrue Holiday. So with all that in the equation, where are you right now? I guess we'll start with Jrue Holiday of just like what he sort of means for the Bucks.
Jrue Holiday is a very underrated player. He's very skillful. You know, he's averaging 17 points a game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. He's got the whole package. And most importantly, he can guard your best player on the opposite team. And that's key in a championship team. So I really like him a lot. It's sad that he's underrated, but I'm so happy he got his money, and I think he deserves it. I actually don't really like the Bucks like that, but I think moving forward, that 2-man combo can be promising.
I remember us talking about like how the NBA players really look at Jrue Holiday as like probably one of the best defenders in the NBA, especially like a wing defender or like a guard defender. I know, like I remember Dame even like tweeting about that, just like, hey, no, Jrue Holiday's for real, you know? So I guess a lot of people in the offseason are probably even looking at this contract or saying like, this doesn't make any sort of sense. He's not a top 5 or top 10 player, but it's more like the value that he brings. And it's not just the defense. It's like the offense as well, you know, being able to shoot from the outside. And I guess speaking towards defense, it's like he can guard that one guy that you need. You don't need to have to put Giannis or you don't have to put Chris Middleton. You know, they can just worry about who they're guarding as well as what they can do on the offensive end. But what does this actually mean now for the Bucks, I guess, moving forward, whether it be this year or the next coming years in terms of actually contending for a championship? Because they've always been there. You know, they've been the top seed the last 2 years. Obviously not this year. The Nets are right there in Philly as well. But just like this year or the next coming years, where do you see with the Bucks like moving forward?
Well, even this year when they acquired Jrue Holiday, they have a silent big 3. And I think they have a chance to go head-to-head with a team like Philly or the Nets, you know.
As well as even adding like PJ Tucker. You know, you obviously even have like Brook Lopez still there. I think the last couple of years, the one reason, and we've kind of talked about this, of just like how we don't really like how the Bucks sort of play, is because it's always been Giannis as that like point forward, kind of like controlling the offense. I think it's been a little bit different this year in terms of now even having Jrue Holiday and not having that much shooters. Because I think in the past, like, they had quote-unquote shooters, but, like, shooters that just didn't make shots. But I think it's a little bit different now. There's a little bit more different spacing, a little bit better different offense. And Giannis is still, in the MVP conversation, still putting up big numbers, not necessarily being that point forward anymore, whether it's catching it off the block or catching it off a screen or whatever. But I still feel like they can still contend. I mean, they're still going to be right there. I know the Nets have like a big package, you know, of what they bring. And then Philly is right there as well, with Embiid being in the MVP conversation. But just like everything that they sort of present, they still have their culture. They still have their main guy. They still have their main head coach. But they're just like the Clippers, where they're going to have to prove it in the postseason. So
I think it will be key for the Bucks to focus on defense. I think if they can shut down the Nets that like to score a lot of points, that's going to be key in moving forward.
So out of those 3 teams, because it looks like right now, just even looking at the standings, they're the top 3 teams. Like, they're way ahead of everybody else in the East. I think it's almost like a 4 or 5 game, almost even 6 game, like, difference between the top 3. Where are you at right now with all 3 of them in terms of, do we feel comfortable with each and every single one of them possibly coming out of the East? Or are you just the Nets, just Philly, just the Bucks? Where are you at with all three of these teams in terms of your comfort level when it comes to them either coming out of the East or just like the Eastern Conference?
I feel comfortable with the Brooklyn Nets coming out of the East, but in the Eastern Conference Finals, I could see them obviously going against either Philly or Milwaukee. The Heat, I think they could make a run too, but I can see Milwaukee, especially giving Brooklyn a hard time with their defense.
One thing about these top three teams is that I feel like it's very important to be the number one seed in this sort of situation, because imagine just being the 2 or 3 seed and the fact that, hey, just say like I run through my first round, now I have to go against another team that was in contention for a number one team, and then going through a grueling probably game 7 with them, and then the next series I've got to go against another team that was also in contention for the number one. So like I also feel like the regular season in these next like whatever 6 weeks or whatever is very important out of these top 3, and that's what we really need to keep our eye on, of just like who's actually going to be the number one seed, because they might just get that sort of easy ride to the Eastern Conference Finals, compared to like, hey, if we're just talking about the Bucks, they end up being the 2 seed and then the Nets being the 1 seed. Now I have to go against Philly in the semifinals, possibly a game 7, and if I beat them, then I have to go against the Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals to get to the finals. Like that's a lot tougher compared to their last 2 years, really, I believe. Now you did mention the Miami Heat, and let's talk about this like 4 through 10 right now, because it's really kind of a logjam. The standings, like 3 to 4 games sort of separation, especially that 4 through like 8 is like really scary, or like really tight within like a half game or a 1 game. And we talked about this a couple episodes ago, where like every single night you win a game, you get up a place, you lose a game, you can go 2 places down, you know? So that's why it gets really sort of interesting, and that's what we need to keep an eye on every single night, of just like what's going to happen. But the Hornets are in 4th place right now,
surprisingly,
without LaMelo Ball,
without Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, he's hurt again, which, you know, there goes that. I mean, the stereotype with that contract, or the narrative, I should say, with getting the big contract, and he's hurt again, but you don't want to put too much speculation into that. But where are you with the Hornets in terms of, because I don't necessarily see them staying in that 4th spot.
No, I see them. I don't even see them making the playoffs anymore, to be honest, without Hayward and LaMelo, especially with the teams like Pacers and Chicago looking from the outside in.
It's so unfortunate that they were such like a feel-good story. They were like one of our favorite teams.
They made me happy.
They really did. They're one of those like league pass, like really fun teams where I'm just like, hey, we're just kind of having fun. We don't really have any sort of expectations. We're kind of a new team with a couple of new pieces, but we're just winning games, and we're just young and free and alive. Like we're in our early 20s, you know, just like doing whatever. But then LaMelo Ball gets hurt. Gordon Hayward gets hurt. And now you're trying to look at like, where's the offensive firepower going to come from? You have Terry Rozier. He's going to have to do a little bit more. You got Bridges, who's like dunking everything in sight, you know.
Devontae Graham.
True. But I don't think that's going to be enough. And I kind of agree with you, not necessarily possibly not making the playoffs, but like getting into like the 9 or 10, you know, where it just starts dwindling away, because you also have to take into consideration the other teams as well. They need to win games too. Now, the Hawks, we talked about them as well, and they're just figuring it out, you know, when they have Nate McMillan and you get everyone back, everyone's sort of healthy. You get rid of Rondo, and now you bring in Lou Williams, who's now even in his 6th game, he's averaging about 12 points per game, still doing his thing off the bench.
And Gallinari's healthy again.
True.
Playing very good.
A good stretch 4 right there. It's just like they're on the cups of what I feel about Miami, and we'll get to them, of just like they can make some noise. You know, I can kind of see them being in that sort of 4 to sort of 6 range-ish, but they're young. They're still trying to figure it out. They also never been in this sort of situation. They're another team where you're going to have to figure out, and John Collins has been injured as well. But again, where are you with the Hawks in general?
They're fun. They grew on me. Trae Young, just so much fun to watch. But Gallinari, I actually had picked him up on my fantasy, one of my leagues earlier this year, but then he got hurt. He was out for a long time, so I had dropped him. But I recently picked him up because he kind of rejuvenated again, and he's playing good. Well, they're fun to watch, the Hawks.
When we played pickup before the season, I said watch out for the Atlanta Hawks because all those acquisitions, you know, it's just like you never really know. But again, they've never been in this position, so it's just like, you start at the beginning of the season and you're just like, well, nothing's really working. COVID issues, injuries, Lloyd Pierce, their old coach, nothing's sort of working out, almost not even making the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, you get rid of Lloyd Pierce, everyone comes back. You got Nate McMillan after the break, and they're just scary, you know? They're interesting and scary, which also leads to my next team is the Miami Heat that you have already brought up. And I'm just going to say this, if they can just put it all together, they can be bubble Miami Heat.
Yeah, I could see them back in the Eastern Conference Finals. No doubt.
Can you see them beating the Nets?
No. Sometimes I don't even see a Western team beating the Nets.
And that's a whole conversation in itself. But when you add Oladipo, Butler, we even talked about this last episode of just like, again, we want to see what that sort of looks like. My question with Miami is with Spoelstra of like, what's your lineup? Like, what's your closing lineup? Because you now have Oladipo and Butler, but you also have Dragic, who always gives like meaningful minutes. And I feel like he always just needs to be on the court. I don't know why. Sometimes he just doesn't start. Tyler Hero, who everyone's kind of like in love with, but like he's pretty clutch for how young he is. And then you have a sharpshooter in Duncan Robinson. You have like all these clutch guys that can be on the floor and can provide so much for your team, but someone's got to sit. You know, and then you have Bam Adebayo, who's obviously going to be there. I just want to know from Spoelstra of just like, who are you going with?
And which is unfortunate because Oladipo just got hurt again, and that's unfortunate. Hurt his knee.
It's kind of like the story the last couple of years of just like, what is he going to look like at full strength? But like, can he stay on the court? You know, or is he going to get back to his old self? Are we going to get that answer? You know, but again, with the Miami Heat, at least they don't necessarily need to really rely on him because they still have their guys that they can kind of go to, and they obviously have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. The Celtics.
Quack, quack, quack.
I just feel like, I don't want to say that they're in trouble, but I just feel like Tatum and Jaylen Brown just have to be kind of all world for them. They just don't have
your beloved All-Stars.
Jaylen Brown deserved to be in the All-Star game this year. If you want to do the whole most improved with him, go ahead. I'm not doing that route.
Go ahead, give him the MVP.
Give him his flowers. But I just feel like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum just have to be world class for them to like get back into where they think where they should be, I guess, or where they have been, like getting back into the Eastern Conference Finals, where I just don't see them actually doing it. They just don't have the bench. You don't necessarily have the big. I like Robert Williams, but it's just not going to be enough. I like Marcus Smart that he's back because he's kind of the glue for their team, but I don't think Evan Fournier is going to be enough for them. They needed that combo wing, that really good combo wing for them. They needed that Gordon Hayward, but I don't believe in them. I guess that's my bold take. I don't have anything to really say about the Celtics. I just don't feel good about them. Tatum had a really nice game last night. He had like 53, but is he going to have to do that every single night to just kind of like propel them back into the conversation?
So they'll probably perhaps have a early exit, round exit.
I think it's early right now, but that's what I'm leaning towards, of just like having an early exit, which leads to the off season of just like, what are we doing, Danny Ainge? You know, like he's a really well-respected executive, but
which low-key they can get. I mean, they're 7th right now. They could low-key get to that 4th spot and play a team like the Hawks, you know, or which they will probably have a chance.
The positive is that they've got guys and they have a coach that's been there before, you know, that knows like what it takes to actually propel themselves. And they've been in the Eastern Conference 2 of the last 3 years. So like they know what it takes, but I don't know if they have the actual depth and the personnel to actually get it done. But we'll see. Most of these teams have not been here before, so maybe they might sort of flame out. They're having fun right now. They're winning games, but who knows when it comes to the postseason? It's two different animals. The Knicks are making the playoffs. I said it earlier in the season, and I'm saying it now. They're making the playoffs. I don't care what happens. I just feel like Tom Thibodeau, the defense, the toughness, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett had a good game last night. They're making the playoffs. I don't care if it's the play-in or if it's whatever. They're going to be there. And Knicks fans, we talked about this, whether I think it was episode 1 or 2, of just like, they're back and they're having fun, no expectations. They're making the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, give me the Nets and the Knicks in the first round, and I will love that. That would be great for the NBA.
I actually wrote that down. Like, I want the first round to actually be Brooklyn versus the Knicks. Like, I just want that to happen. I think New Yorkers want that to happen. I hope that there's fans, that they can actually start packing this in. Like, hopefully it's in another 6 to 8 weeks or whatever this might happen. But if you can get a full Madison Square Garden or close to a full Madison Square Garden or close to full Barclays Center, like, it is going to be wild in New York City. And it could go to 7.
It could. But quick question. As it stands right now, you got Boston in the 7th seed and the Knicks in the 8th seed. Who will be more likely to get bumped out in the playing game?
I'd say the Knicks. If it's the Celtics and the Knicks, I would lean to the Celtics again because of the experience and because of Tatum and Brown and Brad Stevens and what they all can sort of provide. And the Knicks, again, being so young, never even making the playoffs. Who knows what it is. But again, they're going to take them to the wire, and if it's not that sort of situation, and again, if it is like a Brooklyn versus the Knicks, I can see also that going to like a 6 or 7 because, again, you can't take the Knicks lightly. They've played so well against really good teams this year and even beaten really good teams this year. And they play hard for 48 minutes, they play defense, they're tough, and Barrett, Quickly, Randall all provide something offensively. Like, they could make noise. They're not going to win games or they're not going to win a series, but they could make it really hard for the team that they're going against. That's how I just feel about the Knicks. Oh, the Pacers, I don't know how I feel about the Pacers. They were a fun team at the very beginning. I was like, wow, this is crazy. They were like the Utah Jazz, how I felt. I was just like, wow, this is coming out of nowhere. They're doing really good. First year head coach. I just don't even know. I actually have a feeling where they might not even make the playoffs, and I'm just up in the air. What about you?
Yeah, I actually thought they were going to make the playoff, but it seems like they're not going to. But who knows? They just got Caris LeVert back, and I think he brings a spark. And we'll see what happens, though.
They don't have T.J. Warren. He's out. And
that's unfortunate. He was having a good season. Well, that's the thing with the Pacers. I feel like you got T.J., you have Miles Turner, you have Sabonis, you have Brogdon, and LeVert, which it seems like individually, and when they had Oladipo too, it seems like individually they were having a good season, but they just can't win games.
And they can't just put it all together. Not everyone is on the court at the very same time. And so, again, the Indiana Pacers has always been like a relevant team. They've always made the playoffs. They've always kind of like lost in the first round or second round or whatever. But like, if they can figure it out and they can all put it together, maybe they can make some noise. But I just feel like time is starting to tick away, and they're in the 9th seed right now. And so they're just going to have to start making moves right now and actually putting this all together. I will say, watch an Indiana Pacers game recently, and TJ McConnell, sorry, got that wrong. He's kind of been like their fire and fun guy. Lots
of steals,
yes,
lots of energy,
lots of personality. Like, so whatever happens with them, at least if you watch a game, it might be fun and exciting just watching him. The Bulls, they add Vucevic. We talked about this last episode.
Vucci man. He went from Vuce. He's now Vucci man.
Yeah, he's in Chi-Town now.
Yeah.
But I like the two-man sort of game between Levine and Vucevic, but this team doesn't play defense. They've got a whole bunch of young guys. I just feel like they're another team where they're probably going to either stay at 10th. I don't see them even moving up a lot. And you've got to kind of look at the Raptors. I know they're 2.5 games in front of the Raptors, but the Raptors have a lot of experience with Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby.
Ask me about the Raptors.
Oh, where are you at with the Raptors?
They're done.
They are done. This is our bold take, and this might haunt us like 2 months from now, but I think they're done. I really do. This season doesn't count for Toronto. Like, it just doesn't count.
The Tampa Bay Raptors.
I feel like I saw this from Dave McMenamin about like Nike should make a Tampa jersey for them, like just like a one-off like Tampa Raptors jersey.
And to be honest, they can sell it for a lot of money, and people will buy it.
Yeah,
because Tampa fanatics, they're in it. They're proud. They got all
true. We need to get to a point where we talk about Tampa possibly being like a new NBA city. That could be.
I will very much enjoy so.
That I think the NBA is looking at Tampa. Obviously, they were played this year. What does it sort of look like, sort of long term? But with the Raptors, we both feel like they're done. They're just enjoy Tampa, enjoy the sunshine, and
heat up Clearwater, heat up St. Pete. Have a great time, guys.
Beach life. Chili knows all about that.
Bring
beach
the
life.
Family, great spot for the family, man.
But that is the Eastern Conference. We just need to look out for all these teams. It's very tight right now. These next 6 to 8 weeks are going to get very interesting, especially for the 4 through 10. This episode's Community Assist Minute is dedicated to Gary Harris of the Orlando Magic. In collaboration with Fuller Youth Foundation, RJ Hunter of Cosmic Clothing, and Culture City, Harris presented a youth basketball program entitled Cosmic Classic Showcase Basketball Experience, an innovative and disruptive new approach to amplifying student athletes adversely affected by the COVID-19. The concept took place last weekend during the NCAA Men's Final Four tournament in Indianapolis. Due to COVID-19, thousands of male and female student athletes have had their AAU summer and high school basketball seasons negatively impacted. The Cosmic Classic Showcase featured a unique opportunity for players to gain crucial exposure as NCAA rules currently prohibit college coaches from in-person recruiting. Harris mentions these kids have had so much taken away from them, and I had to do something to give back. He also states that he created the showcase to provide an avenue for younger players to be seen. We know better than anyone how important the college experience is, especially as a basketball player, and what that means to our community. The event was live streamed through SUV TV to over 250 colleges that even featured everything from three-point contests to dunk contests that included players from elementary to elite. The showcase also produced highlight clips for each participant, which included both game footage and individual workouts to be distributed to colleges. The showcase even provided additional skill evaluation opportunities and was able to assist these future college prospects desiring to pursue future academic endeavors by connecting them with colleges and universities. Former Missouri Associate Head Coach and Event Coordinator for the showcase, Tim Fuller, said that the showcase is a culmination of a dream Harris and RJ Hunter had during their AAU playing days. He mentions that they used to sit on the back of the bus and dream about making it and giving opportunities to younger guys. It's really just selfless of them, especially with them being under 30. This is a potentially life-changing event for these kids, so the opportunity that they provided can't be understated. And with that, this is our Community Assist Minute. All right, so let's get into the Western Conference now, and we're going to start with one of the hottest teams in the West right now, and it's the Denver Nuggets. Now, last week we talked about our reactions about the trade deadline with the Orlando Magic specifically, and one of those players included Aaron Gordon, and now he went to the Denver Nuggets. And one of our big questions was, what is that going to look like? You know, when you have a Michael Porter Jr., you have a Jokic who's in the MVP conversation, and Murray, you add that fourth guy in Aaron Gordon, where he's going to have to kind of take his step back in terms of usage because he was a number one guy in Orlando, and now he's going to be a third or fourth guy. What is that going to look like? Well, they're 8-0 right now with him in the lineup, and it's actually so much fun, and it almost feels like he was like their missing piece. And it starts begging the question, can they now start getting into the conversation in terms of contending for the actual West right now? Not necessarily saying getting into the finals, but can they push to get into the Western Conference Finals? It could be a logjam with the Lakers, Clippers, Phoenix, as well as Utah, and we'll get into those teams. But are they now a fifth team in the conversation? But with Denver adding Aaron Gordon, what do you see from them?
I think the boys from the Maha City are for real. I believe in them. I think they have with what they did last year with the team they had. I think they're even better this year, and I think they'll go far for sure.
I just feel like there's just so much length. You got a 6'9" Aaron Gordon, a 6'10" Michael Porter Jr., and then you have the long length of Jokic. And even Barton. Now with Gordon being there, he doesn't have to guard those like big forwards anymore. He can just stick to guarding the two guards. And then you have Murray out there again, we talked about this last episode. With all five of those guys, can Murray actually get to the potential that he needs to be with his contract as well as being Bubble Murray? Michael Porter Jr., I think this actually helps Michael Porter Jr. in terms of just like him being able to play free. Doesn't necessarily need to worry too much defensively because now you have Aaron Gordon. And then Jokic can just be Jokic. And you talked about this last episode. You just need to see Aaron Gordon cut. All he has to do is just cut to the basket. And this is a team that thrives on cutting because you have an exceptional passer in Jokic. And I've just seen highlight after highlight after highlight of just passing from Jokic to Aaron Gordon to Jokic to Aaron Gordon. But it's just so much fun to see on an offensive standpoint, and as well as when you add Aaron Gordon defensively, like he can guard any of those forwards. It's just a full balance in terms of their team. But again, they still need to improve overall defensively because I just don't feel like overall in terms of them actually contending that they can just do enough. But it's going to be interesting leading up to the playoffs. Can they get it into that 1, 2, 3, or 4, knowing that the Lakers are dwindling? I don't know how I feel about the Clippers, and then the Blazers, Mavericks are kind of in there, but I don't feel also going in there.
Well, with Jamal Murray though, real quick,
yeah.
And he's been hurt, and he's been out the past couple of games with a sore knee. Well, how do you feel about the backup point guards in Denver with Monte, Morris, and Campazzo?
You already know Campazzo's my guy, and every other game he has a highlight pass that just makes me go crazy and think about Manu Ginobili. But I don't have any problems with them in terms of that because they have the depth there and they have that experience where I feel comfortable with them, especially if Murray's not on the court. And you already have Jokic, who is really like their point center, so it's not. Even if you don't even play Murray or Campazzo or Morris, you can even go big with even adding Millsap, and just having Jokic play the guard position. Because at this point, you can put him anywhere on the court, and he's just going to deliver, We've already seen last year in the bubble where they went with the full 7-foot lineup, just why not, with Bull. They can still put a legitimate lineup out there of just 6'8" and above. What does that look like? Who knows? Is that going to be effective? I don't really know. But they can do that if they really want to, and that can be a nightmare situation for other teams. But they have the depth, like you said, at Morris and Campazzo, and I feel really comfortable with both of those guys, when they're on the court. There's no true drop-off when Murray's out there. I just feel like they just bring so much production to their team. But now when we're actually talking about West contenders, let's just get into the top two seeds right there. The Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. They've been continuously the top two seeds in the West. They've been having the best record in the West pretty much predominantly this season. They had a game on Wednesday that went into overtime. It was a fun game. You had Booker and Mitchell going back to pretty much battling back and forth. It came actually down to the very end, and it actually came down to the oldest guy on the court, and Chris Paul still doing it. Every single team he's been on just keeps getting better, and this is just another example. But it came down to the end with Chris Paul making free throws to kind of seal it. You kind of learned a lot from both of those teams, and especially throughout the season. And it's just this is not just a regular season thing, I think. I think we're at this point right now where I do feel like both teams can really sort of contend for the Western Conference Finals. It's easy for the fan to say, let's go with the Lakers or Clippers because of the star power and the firepower that they have. But I'm starting to really sort of buy into Phoenix and Utah actually maybe even getting to the finals, but definitely getting to the Western Conference Finals. Where are you at, with either one of those teams? Do you feel comfortable right now, or?
I feel comfortable, but then again, I look at their weak links, And sometimes, especially with Utah, they're good. But then sometimes I see Joe Ingles not have an efficient night, and it makes me wonder, like, do they need him like at full capacity to win? If not, then maybe they don't have a chance. And same with Phoenix, got CP3, got Devin Booker, but is Ayton always going to be consistent too? So
Let's start with Utah, and I guess the negative that I have, and I brought this up a couple episodes ago, is just that they just don't have that one true wing defender that I can really rely on when it comes down to the playoff time of guarding these star power guys.
Royce O'Neal?
I know you were going to bring up Royce O'Neal, but just like I just don't necessarily feel comfortable with him going one-on-one with defending him like a wing forward. But that subsidizes because you have Rudy Gobert in the paint, and their team defense is probably one of the best in the league. So can they just get over that sort of fact and just be like, hey, we don't have to rely on like one guy guarding LeBron or Kawhi or PG. We've got a full team, and we've got a defensive player of the year that's pretty much guarding the entire paint that we can sort of rely on, as well as something that's just never been done before, but just like 50% of their shots are threes. Like, we've never really sort of seen that, I guess, closer to like the Houston Rockets. But like, this is a team that's shooting 50%, or 50% of their attempts are from three, and they're making 40% of their threes. So if they're making threes, they're giving me a whole bunch of confidence in saying like, hey, they can just outshoot anybody, But again, what if they don't make threes? Well, who are they? Do they have to rely on Donovan Mitchell last year in the bubble just going one-on-one and trying to score 40 or 50 a game?
Which he's proved that he could do it in any given night.
True. But is that going to be enough to carry them? That's the question, But again, if they do end up shooting 40 or 50% from the three, they're beating anybody. Just that's almost a fact because, again, you just can't guard that. Now, when it comes to the Suns, their issue is that they've never been in this sort of situation. They've got a whole bunch of young guys, and you have Chris Paul, who also just really hasn't taken that really next step of making it to the finals. Like, he's bringing that veteran leadership, and obviously he's super talented. A lot of people even feel like he needs to be in the MVP conversation of just like the big difference maker that he's been. But Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and a lot of these young guys have just never been in this sort of situation. They did that 8-0 run in the bubble that was really unique, and they almost made it to the playoffs. But again, they didn't make it in the playoffs. So now you're probably going to go into the playoffs as the 2 seed. Again, the first round, you're a good team, but you've never been there. You've never been in this sort of situation. And what if you go against, I don't know, Portland or what if you go against the Lakers, as a 7th seed, which could possibly happen? That can be sort of scary. But I think just from this game and like what I've seen this entire season, like I feel comfortable with both of them potentially doing damage. Now, here's the thing that makes you laugh of just like, where are you at with Team B in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Clippers?
Team B. Why do I love that nickname? Thank you. Well, mad respect to Kawhi Leonard. I think, he's very good. Paul George, he hasn't been too bad, so props to him. I think the key with the Clippers, and I've been saying this for a few months now, is just the chemistry. That once they can get that chemistry down, they got everything else they need.
It's very fascinating how people sort of view the Clippers this year, because last year they were like one outside of the Lakers, like the number 2 team that people were talking about in terms of like, a lot of people felt they would actually make it to the finals, and then obviously they flamed out in the playoffs. And that what happened in the playoffs sort of carried into the offseason, saying, oh, we don't believe in the Clippers. But technically this is just year 2 with Kawhi and PG. You talked about chemistry being an issue. Like, it kind of still stems into this year as like they're still learning to play together. But you can say that, but you can also look at LeBron and AD. They never played together until just like last year, so it's not necessarily an excuse. But when you look at this Clippers team, no one's talking about them. No one. They have not really been mentioned really at all.
Whether they win or lose.
I still feel like they still have some of the same issues where they can't close out games. We've seen many instances this year where they just can't close out games, just like last year, which is going to be an issue in the playoffs. But they're one of the deeper teams. They can play defense. They've got 2 superstars. They have really good offense. They pretty much have all the check boxes in terms of making it into the finals. It's a matter of when we get to the playoffs, just like the Bucks, can you produce? Can you figure it out? Because again, if you can't, Kawhi has that player option. Is he coming back? I know it's a little too soon. We're too soon in these episodes to start thinking about what's going to happen in the offseason, but he has that player option, and he could have the possibility of just being like, you know what? After 2 years, I'm trying something else. I'm trying something different. But they have all the pieces right there. Can they sort of put it together? Where are you at with your Lakers? They've lost 7 of 11, and which is kind of what we thought was going to happen without LeBron or AD. But you don't want to get into a situation where if I start asking you, what if they're in the play-in game? Like, what do you think? So where are you at with your Los Angeles Lakers?
Not going to lie, ever since, when AD went down, it was a little scary, but we still had LeBron. When LeBron's out, it really got scary. We acquired Drummond. That was nice. He was out for a little bit, but it seems like he's good now. And Kuzma, dealing with injuries too. But at the end of the day, I trust my team. I think the role players, I'm proud of all of them. And I think they can get it done. And even if it came down to a playing game, I think we'll beat any of those teams that are barely hanging on. And even tonight, as we speak, they beat the Brooklyn Nets by a whole bunch just with the role players.
Let's just state the obvious. You guys have LeBron James and nobody else has LeBron James. And so it's every single year, what if LeBron was in this sort of situation? Can he get over the hump? Can he do this? He still continues to make it to the finals regardless of what the situation is that he's in. So if he's on the floor, I know you do, and I definitely do, feel comfortable of like what they're going to be able to do and be able to produce. I think it is scary right now. It's more the fact that what if they sit out till like the beginning of the playoffs? And what if they are in the play-in game and their first couple of games back is like, hey, we have to go full out, to like win 1 game or 2 games to like actually get into this thing. I don't feel like they're going to get into the play-in, but like it could, it could happen,
Yeah.
They're losing games right now. But they come back and they're just like, hey, I have to go full force, full energy. I have to play 40 plus minutes to just win this game. Like, this is ridiculous. And then right off the bat, I have to go play the 2 seed, like in the first round, or possibly the 3 seed or whatever it might be. So we might have to play the Clippers in the first round when we thought we were going to play them in the Western Conference Finals. That's going to just be like the mental makeup of just like, how do we sort of kind of get through this? But I don't necessarily really have a problem with the Lakers. I think they're going to figure it out, like when LeBron and AD, and I think AD will come back before LeBron, which is a positive, I think.
Yeah, I think I heard 4 to 7 days even he might make a return. So we'll see. It might be even longer than that, but
as long as it's not like a nagging sort of injury, like where it's just like, hey, he comes back, and then next thing you know, it's just like, oh, I have to sit out again because it still kind of hurts, and I came back too early. You don't want that sort of situation. I feel like if I'm the Lakers and he's not fully ready to go, just don't play him. Like, I feel comfortable, again, with both LeBron and AD. If they need to sit out, they need to sit out. But if they're ready for the playoffs, then whatever happens, there are 2 top 5 players. I think they'll be able to get it done. I think those are like the 4 teams that are really sort of going to contend, I guess, or has the possibility of actually making it to the Western Conference Finals. I'm looking at the Blazers. They did add Norman Powell. CJ McCollum is back. Big Nurk is back. I just don't feel like they have enough. They're terrible defensively. They're 29th in team defense. No, you're not going to win games like with terrible defense. I know Dame, he's in the MVP conversation. We really hope that he actually ends up winning it this year. And I think he probably could. But I feel like the Blazers are who the Blazers are. And I think it's more of like an off-season thing for the Blazers in terms of they just need to get better players, I think they're a good team. It's just like they're kind of like that Houston Rockets, Indiana Pacers, super relevant, like going to be right there. But like I just don't feel like it's enough to get over the hump, which is sad because I'm looking at a Denver team that really hasn't done anything as well. But I'm super excited about that. Could be my Colorado bias, but who knows? The Mavs, they're middle of the pack.
at least they made a run. It seems like they're gonna make the playoffs. the first half of the year, they weren't even in the playoff picture.
Yeah, it was getting a little scary, especially with Luka Doncic and his kind of slow start and Porzingis being injured. You're just kind of figuring, like, is this a playoff team or what are we looking at right here? But it looks like they're pretty much set in that, like, 6 to 7, which you need to keep an eye on because of the Lakers. Of just like, okay, so what if the Dallas keeps winning games and the Lakers lose games in terms of seeding right there? Let's get into teams that we're very worried about, and it's pretty much anyone that's in the play-in race right now, and that's the Grizzlies, my San Antonio Spurs, Golden State Warriors, and I guess we'll just throw in the Pelicans. I think all four of those teams have a possibility of just being in the play-in game or just not even being in the playoffs. I just feel like all four of those teams in the second half of the season are probably the most inconsistent. And I think I feel comfortable a little bit with like the Grizzlies. I think they're in like 8th right now. But out of those four teams for you, who do you feel comfortable with in terms of like the last like 6 weeks that they can probably kind of figure it out?
I think the Pelicans, a healthy Pelicans team, can figure it out. Those are my favorite ones.
They're the team that I think is the most talented out of the four. And I'm just surprised that they're in 10th or 11th place, or they've been in that sort of spot. When you have Zion and Ingram and the talent around them, I just don't understand why like they're in the position that they're in. Is it a Stan Van Gundy? Is it the fact that they just can't play defense, or team defense, I should say? But I guess it's, again, me being the homer with San Antonio, knowing that you have Pop, so that puts you in a whole other category. But then you also have the Warriors, who I don't think Steph is going to be like deuces, like we'll be in the play-in, or deuces, we just won't make the playoffs. I just feel like he has a ton more pride. Draymond has a ton of pride, and Steve Kerr obviously has pride as well. And I feel like they sort of figured out. I would like to see Steph in the playoffs because, again, he's just a nightmare matchup for whoever is guarding him. But it's just very bleak right now with those four teams where I just don't even know, like, what the order is going to be, if they're going to make the playoffs, if they're not. I don't see any of them challenging any of the 6 or 7 teams in front of them. Not even if any of them make the playoffs, I don't feel like they're either going to challenge any of the teams in front of them. I just feel like it's a just complete disparity between the two right now. Things could change. Like, I kind of feel good about the Pelicans if they can sort of figure it out because, again, they've got the talent. You know, if they figure it out, like, they could be interesting. But, like, I've seen them so inconsistent the entire season that I just wouldn't surprise me if that continues to the very end and you're just like, you don't make the playoffs. So that's the Western Conference right now. That's our update for the Western Conference. And again, we're just going to continue to see where it takes us. So as we close, we do this every single episode. It's a parting shot, our lasting message of what we want to share with the audience. It doesn't have to be sports related. It could be serious. It could be funny. It could be entertaining. It could be kind of whatever is just kind of on our mind. And so this is definitely going to be contradicting in terms of like what we said we talked about at the very beginning of the episode. But we kind of just wanted to stress the effort or the emphasis on purchasing groceries instead of eating out. It's amazing that the older you get, you start to realize how much money you kind of spend on eating out. And again, we talked about like how we ordered pizza, so I guess we're hypocrites in this regard. But we're big grocery people. We think the grocery store is like a theme park for us. Shout out to Costco, shout out to Aldi's, Whole Foods, any sort of place where we get our groceries. But you can save a lot of money getting groceries, as well as you can start being creative and making your own meals. And you can start getting healthier in terms of buying things that's great for your body compared to consistently eating out and not feeling great about yourself. Maybe in the moment, but maybe the aftermath is not. But that's our message for today. Groceries over pizza after today. But that is our episode for today. This was episode 4. As always, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We really hope you guys really enjoyed this episode, especially the pizza rant at the very beginning. Always feel free to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Podcast ABC. That is Podcast ABC. Chili, you got anything?
No, everyone just that was a great advice. Buying groceries. So take that up.
And with that, we will see you next week. This is All Blocks Covered, guys. Peace.